This is the Commodore 64 version of Savage. And you can tell by the red sticker that it is the Commodore version. I'm not 100% sure, but they do tend to colour code these games that were released on multiple different computers. Now, I do feel like a bit of a wally because I had this game for a while and I didn't realise that after watching the introduction, you're supposed to turn off the machine and load up level 1 as a completely separate program. So I loaded up the introduction and I was pressing all the different keys, the space bar, the joystick button, expecting it to kind of link to level 1. But all of the different levels and the introduction are just completely separate programs on the tape. Once I worked that out, I was able to actually play the game. Whoever put this sticker on didn't put it on very straight, did they? So I've got the tape counter for the first level after the introduction, and on the other side, level 3. But also there's passwords, because once you complete a level, it will give you a password so you can play the next level with the full 3 lives. So now what you need to do, reset your Commodore 64 and load up the next program. So after all that, we're actually into the game. Or at least level 1. All 3 parts of this game do have the option for either just music or just sound effects. But I'll be choosing the music. For some reason it sort of glitched back to the title screen there when I tried to start it. It looks really frantic the way that I'm playing this. But I find that a lot of the enemies spawn a little bit higher than you can actually shoot unless you jump, and they will constantly come at you from the right. So, I mean, what can you do other than just keep jumping and shooting? And one little problem, which it's not really a little problem, it's a massive problem. You only seem to be able to shoot one axe at a time, and if you miss, then that is quite a long period before you can shoot again. And the enemies are all quite small, you can see, and they just relentlessly come at you from the right side of the screen there. You don't get a breather whatsoever. And sometimes they just get to the left of you if you miss them, and then they'll just drain your energy. So if you can find an effective way to just stop them going to the right, to the left of you, then you'll be just fine, I think. Oh, what happened there? I think I actually lost a life falling down there. Technically, this is all pretty good. It scrolls smoothly, like you would expect a Commodore 64 game to. The movement is fine. The only issue I have really is that you will hammer that fire button, but it just won't shoot as fast as you press the button, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. It looks pretty nice too, actually. The backgrounds look nice and everything's well drawn. Although the choice of colours on Savage himself, I think that's his name. The colour choice on Savage is not great. I think two of the colours have to be the same two colours on absolutely every sprite. So you've got another mini boss here. You see that lightning on the floor? That is actually a power up. But when I collect that power up, it makes the new weapon disappear. Which is a shame actually, because I really wanted that, because that would have made it a lot easier to shoot in a straight line. The enemies all drop these blue power up thingies, but they are actually just points, which you will accumulate here after you die. So yeah, that's my attempt at level 1. I don't really like that very much, because it just frustrates me that the enemies are so tiny. You can only fire one axe at a time, and they are just relentlessly attacking you. But you can see here, you can play with just sound effects. They are actually pretty good sound effects as well. So on to part 2. Now with part 2, you can either play it without a password, where you'll just be given 1 life, or you can take the password that you would have been given at the end of level 1, type it in now, and you'll get the full 3 lives. this is another load on side 2 of the tape, and it's a completely differently programmed game, I guess you could say. It's very, very simple. In fact, the best comparison I can make really is the ZX Spectrum game Death Chase 3D. Although I guess you could say it looks like Space Harrier. You are actually supposed to shoot them floating skulls, but it's actually more difficult to avoid the green totem poles or whatever it is that's coming at you. But I mean, they actually do come at you at quite a pace, really. The people that made this did a pretty good job of this technically, because you would expect something like that to be quite slow on the Commodore 64. But that might be why the screen is so small, just to keep the speed up. You can see it's really, really slowing down there. It's so fast you don't really get time to think about how simple it is. And again, a really excellent piece of music. I think all 3 of these parts are a bit of a tour de force. And I think the point of this really is just to see how far the machines could be pushed. And I say the machines because this was released on the Amstrad CPC and ZX Spectrum first, and this Commodore 64 version is actually a conversion. Anything coming from the Spectrum to the Commodore 64 did convert pretty well, actually. Although some isometric games or 3D wireframe games were usually a bit slower on the Commodore 64. So now on to part 3, and again I've got to type a password in. And actually, for some reason this gets a bit buggy again when I try to start it. I have to type the password in again. Don't know why that is. But again, another completely separate program. And this time you're controlling Savage's pet eagle, who has to infiltrate the main bad guy's base and rescue whoever it is you're rescuing. I can't actually remember. God, that's gruesome. Got completely flattened there. Right, here we go again. Nice start, Andy. So this is actually, I would say, even more frustrating than part 1. You get a couple of different enemies that they'll constantly spawn, but they won't appear on the edge of the screen, they'll just appear on top of you. And because they are in line with you at all times, you can't actually shoot them. You might notice when you do kill them, it does give you back a little bit of your energy, which is nice. But again, it's just a relentless amount of enemies, and as soon as you kill one, you've got 3 more on you. So I might be better off just staying here. But aside from the gameplay, this is really, really cool. This is great. Really well animated. The pixel art is good, and it's actually pretty colourful as well. In fact, there are a couple of moments where, for reasons completely beyond me, I lose about 90% of my life in just one hit, and I don't know what caused it. This level is actually a maze as well, so not exactly one to complete on your first attempt. Oh, I don't know, maybe gamers that are good enough can keep at it enough to not lose all your lives. Middle one always gets me. So yeah, shooting that thing gives you your life back. I think one problem with level 1 and level 3 is that you are such a big target. I think that's part of the point, isn't it? To show off massive, well animated sprites. Perhaps to the detriment of the playability. Look at that, I can't even get at the boss because there's all this other stuff just appearing on me. Oh look, they appear even when you're dead. Yeah, did you see that? I lost all of my life in just one instant there. Well, anyway, moaning aside, I really like the idea of this game, but I think the problems that it has do actually ruin it for me. So, I like the music, it plays perfectly well, it's programmed well, but it's not something I'd like to actually play because it's just too frustrating. I mean, I could probably learn to get better at it, but it's just I don't like the way that the enemies just constantly spawn all the time at you. I think if I was playing this back when it was released, I would have been about 4 years old, I think, and I probably would have only played it with cheats on. That's a nice big long look at Savage for the Commodore 64. So once again, thank you for watching.